Good. So I'd like to begin with just a short reading. And I realized I was looking through this book today. Uh, and if you're lying down, you don't have to get up. I'll just show it to you. It's Stephen Cope's lovely book, The Great Work of Your Life. And I will put this on the recommended reading list that's on the website. But this is what I'm going to share from. Stephen was one of my very first teachers before he was a scholar in residence at Kripalu way back. So I would just like to share this. It's very interesting, and I think it's very appropriate to the times right now, because I feel, if we're able to, open to, not only do we have a lot of personal changes and transformations happening, but to some of us, it's very obvious that there's a larger collective and cosmic transformation and change that is happening. So the background of this book that Stephen wrote is the Bhagavad Gita, and the first instruction, the first consideration that Krishna gives to Arjuna is to know your Dharma. And Dharma is a very, very tricky word to actually translate into English, because it has many sub-meanings and subtleties to it. But essentially, here in the West, we translate it as our sacred work, our life path, if you will. And it's interesting because in the Hindu cosmology, there was really no personal dharma. You just came into a lineage, you came into a caste, and you were expected to explore your dharma based on where you were in the hierarchy. Here in the West, we certainly have personal dharma. So I would just like to share this very short reading, and we'll open this way and then begin. Krishna, in his teachings to Arjuna, points to a truth that also holds true for us. You cannot be anyone you want to be. You cannot be anyone you want to be? Really? The notion that we can be anyone we want to be is a slippery half-truth that saturates contemporary culture, reinforced by several generations of self-help literature. How many times have we heard it? You can do anything you set your mind to. Krishna would say, well, not exactly. Yes, our inner possibilities are fantastic beyond imagining. But no, these possibilities are not nearly as subject to our ego's manipulation as we might like to think. Actually, you can only expect a fulfilling life if you dedicate yourself to finding out who you are, to finding the ineffable, idiosyncratic seeds of possibility already planted inside. There is some surrender required here. So how do we discern our Dharma? How do we discover the magnificent inner blueprint? And then he gives three important principles for this practice of discerning our Dharma, which I really like. Number one, trust in the gift. Number two, think of the small as large. And number three, listen for the call of the times. And now the contemplation of yoga. So let's come on up and come into a position I'm going to show the supports only with the two bolsters, but if you don't have the bolsters, certainly just use a towel or a blanket. So it's really just for support. We're not using these bolsters for any compressive quality. So you can use a pillow or anything that works. Also, I'm going to show a modification to this. So I know that sometimes if the hips are really, really tight and the angle of the femur and hip socket are not compatible with this pose, some of us just go in this pose and it's like heaven. Others, it's just awkward and it feels like you have to hold yourself in place. So if that's the case, I'd like to just show you a modification that kind of gets into the same area. Doesn't have the same sort of completely letting go quality, although it can, and I'll show you that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to begin by just bending. I'm going to come to the side a bit, but I'm basically going to bend the left leg in front of me, but not pull it in. So there's just some space. Yeah, and I'll show you how to angle this leg if we want to do that. And then we're going to take the right leg and extend it back. Yeah, so you can see where I'm heading here. The left leg is at a basically 90-degree angle out from the body. So the ankle and knee are in an alignment. The back leg, I'm going to recommend not to try to straighten it out and press this right hip down. It's a different kind of yoga. I like you to bend this knee a little bit, the right knee, so this hip can relax and go where it needs to go. If you're not needing the aid or the support of the bolsters, this is called in Yin Sleeping Swan. You can just relax over this left leg. And then the angles, it really depends on how much pressure the left knee can take. If you bring this foot in towards the groin, it takes a lot of that knee pressure out. You could also leave it at this ankle knee alignment, or you could actually sometimes push it forward. This will stress the knee a lot more, but it'll also stress into the IT band, which is nice. So you can use the big bolster or your pillow or blanket to relax on like this. You have to just come over it so you're not all the way to the floor. So this is significant in terms of compression if I put my head to the floor or if I support myself up. The other, I'm going to just switch around to show you the other possibility, because this area up in here where you might be feeling in the left hip area is piriformis muscle and IT band coming up to the knee. So it can have a tremendous tightness to it. So you could always put something, I'm putting the little bolster under my left buttock. This just relieves a tremendous amount of that tension, and then you can relax over this. Yes? Okay. So that's the pose. Go in it if you are open to that. If not, what works very well here is to lie on your back. So this is a little bit different. And take this right foot and you could put it up against the wall or not. Yeah, so I'm just resting, I'm just holding it in the air right now. But it's very nice to put this up against the wall. And then you take the left foot and put it under that right knee. So if it's on the wall, you don't have to reach under and pull it. You can actually torque it a little bit by pressing the left knee forward, play with it as much as you'd like. But if you don't have the right foot on the wall, you can take the left hand, put it under that left shin, reach around, take the right hand on the other side of the right thigh, interlock your fingers, and this way you can just kind of pull in, put your foot down if you need to, but you can kind of hold it there. We're going to be here for a while, so I think if you're going to do this variation, it might be nice just to put the foot on the wall. You'll be surprised how the compression really seeps in. I like this version a lot. I do this quite often. So your choice of those two versions. And I'm just going to read those. Okay, let me make sure I can find them. Oh, maybe I can find them. Oh yes. I just like to repeat these three principles in the discernment of our Dharma, because certainly, if we are going back to this, is sort of this fertile blooming of yoga from this Hindu cosmology, the actual asanas themselves were really received for us to just explore whatever it is that's coming in and out of our consciousness. So we can not only do it quietly and we can spend time with it, but we can go as deep as we're willing to go. So the three principles of exploring our Dharma: trust in the gift, think of the small as large, listen for the call of the times. And one of the primary reasons why we're allowing the body to relax, even though we may be feeling a bit restricted or achy or a bit dehydrated or just painful, why we want to cultivate the quality of relaxation is because we want to be able to drift inward. So the stillness in the posture is not out of a sense of discipline. It's not to see if you can do it and to see what happens. It's to give yourself this incredible time out from all concerns and preoccupations and planning and worries, and just relax inwardly. Just draw your energy to this place where it's vague, really. It's open-ended. There's nothing to do. We have no agenda. We're just relaxing. We're feeling the body and allowing this, this sensory experience to pervade. Certainly the distraction of thought and mind will always be there. That's perfectly fine. But the feeling the threads of the body and the inner movement of the body as you sink into it, this is what we're really cultivating. So if at any point you feel, it's not working or it's awkward or why am I doing this? First of all, evaluate, are you just moving away from, you do not want to be comfortable? So checking with that. But if you need to shift something, if you need to withdraw and breathe a bit and relax, this approach to the body, the mind, is much more like dancing. It's not really exercise. It's how when we dance, we're just letting the flow of the body, the pulsation of the body take us. So we're just doing this still dance, but we're doing it inwardly. And, of course, when I say relaxation, that's a very open-ended and it's an intimate exploration. Often we want to be clear. It takes a great amount of clarity to authentically relax. So notice if your body is clenching at any level, if there's a bit of protection mode, you're not safe, but you're holding on. Notice that. Notice if the breath feels a little stiff, if the breath is caught in some part of the body. Really try to soften the breath, but notice that you can deepen the breath and slow it down at the same time. So we're sort of drawing it in a deeper way. And then whatever is going on in your mind, uh, most important not to judge it. The fluctuations of the mind are subject to the body and the breath relaxing. So over time, and also subject to this sort of inner landscape that I'm talking about. So no worries there. If you notice that the mind is still holding a bit of tension or busy or distracting, just let it be. Do not fight with it. Do not try to change it. Just be aware that it's always these subtle shifts when we try to sit quietly. And so let's come on up from here, but initially just come up to your palms and just ease into the lower back. And so if you've been on your back doing the modification of this, you could just join us here. We'll just be here for a moment, or you could lie with both legs out on your belly and just press up. It's always nice here just to sort of sway into the lower back a bit, press into it, feel it. Good. And then we'll remember that we have the left leg forward. So what I would like you to do from here now is just sit up, bring that right leg front, and bring the soles of the feet together. Just in front of you. No need to pull them in to tighten the hips. Let the hips stay relaxed. And before we come into the forward bend, just take a moment to bring the shoulders back so they're over the hips. And just feel as you relax the shoulders, the spine just gently elongating. So oftentimes we just, habitually, mechanically go into these forward bends. We don't really feel the spine, how articulate it is and how it's stacked. So my recommendation here is just to feel it elongate a bit, to relax, to see if you can feel the head having a bit of lightness so it's not squishing into the neck, that's squishing into the cervical spine. And then from here, just let the head begin this forward bend. So very gently, we're starting to connect. We're starting to feel the spine articulate. And now it's unstacking in a way, if you will. And we'll just come forward. And again, use any pillows, blankets, towels, bolsters that you need to support yourself. But do keep the lower back as rounded and as unengaged as possible. So we're not trying to stretch, we're really trying to sink into it. Especially after that last pose, there's something about that IT band piriformis that this is a sort of a natural consequence. And not to, not to be a spoiler on the Gita, but by the end of the Gita, Arjuna says to Krishna, he says, my delusion has been destroyed and I have regained my memory. And he doesn't just sort of mean mental memories. What he's referring to is, I know who I am. And so this is the beauty of this study. This is the beauty of yoga, is that we're experientially getting to lean into, to get close to what we've been taught we are, what we think we are, to see what we really are. And this certainly is in a larger context of just who we are spiritually, but also in terms of our Dharma, in terms of what is it that I am here to express, what is that magnificent blueprint that is unique to me that Stephen referred to. And then the concept is that when we actually know who we are, then we'll know how to act. We'll know how to follow this. So sometimes it takes a while to settle into that exploration. And to say, if you're interested, this is one of our primary scriptures of yoga, going back thousands of years. So if you're interested, to be aware that it runs the gamut of interpretations, unless you're fluent in Sanskrit. But Paramahansa has a version, of 2-volume version, that's incredibly scientific. It just takes years to read. And then there is a gradation of incredibly poetic versions. So it's poetry, really. It's the yoga manifest, so the mind has something to play with, really. Good, so let us come on up from here, please. And I would like you to make 2 rolls. So what I'm using here, just to show you that we can do it with almost anything, I'm not using my small bolster. You could use if you have a small bolster, you could use the small bolster for one of the rolls, or you could try it with 2 rolls. And what I've done is one of the rolls is a towel and one is a blanket. So I've just taken this and I'm sort of gauging how I feel in my lower back on how high I'm going to roll them. So I've taken just a towel and I've rolled it up to, well, just a pretty nice height. And again, I'm gauging, I'm also counting on it being a little soft. And then I'm taking this particularly soft blanket and I'm rolling it up. So it's particularly soft. So you can experiment. I have another blanket, one of the Mexican blankets that's not as soft and would roll up a little higher. And so maybe you'll know better when you see what we're going to do with this. So the 2 blankets are going to be as close together as possible, and they're going to be side to side or horizontal from hip to hip, not up the spine. And so what I'm going to suggest is to sit on the floor in front of these 2. And be careful of this, is that often when we go back, you see how they're sliding, or they can slide. If you can't see it, they'll slide. So then I have a gap here that I don't want. This compression I don't want. I want the lumbar right from the sacral area to be supported. So I pull these in. Yeah, so that's very nice. And then I'm going to keep my feet on the floor. I'm going to snuggle down and just make a brief assessment when you're on your forearms to be like, yes, no, maybe, I'm not sure. And you may need to unroll or even roll a little bit higher. Keeping the feet stable on the floor, bring the upper body down, and then open the legs out. And I have to come down just a little bit more to get into the lumbar, a little bit up into the lower thoracic. And I would choose for myself to bring a little something under my neck. Yeah, that's perfect. So get a little something under my neck, back of the head possibly, 2 rolls that are as far down as you can manage them, but having the buttocks on the floor. Let the legs relax out, open a little bit, so release the hips, let the arms just relax to the side, and then we'll just indulge here for a while. Indulge in the discomfort for a bit. And again, just simply notice how your breath is reacting. Yeah, so it's not actually reacting to the posture, because the posture is just evoking something. Putting this compression in your lower back is evoking a cascade of sensations, and your breath is going to reflect that. So just notice that. And what I was saying in the last class is the breath is so interesting in that we often can control it. And sometimes in a yoga practice, we're invited to control it for a variety of reasons. And other times we don't control it and the body just breathes. My invitation is to let yourself float between those two. So beginning with whatever the sensation is evoking. So if you find the breath short and sharp and quickening, that's evoking something you want to listen to. And can you simply slow the breath down and relax the breath, or do you need to change the intensity of the sensations? So another perspective, another way of looking at this very complex, interwoven thought process, body process, breathing process. allowing your energy to relax inward, letting any and all thoughts simply appear and disappear, letting any fixations on sensations soften a bit. And allowing the gentle and subtle and intelligent softness of your breath to feel as if it's pervading tissues, pervading bones, pervading systems. So we're not using the breath mechanically. We have no agenda for the breath. It's a global saturating of your entire body, your entire being. And we do this very slowly. We do this very gently. And we also do this from a place of what the breath is reflecting based on what's being evoked. So before you come out of this loveliness, let's bend your knees and put your feet on the floor. The first thing I'd like you to assess is, do you need to remove one of the rolls? We're going to stay in this a little bit longer. So if you need to remove one of the rolls with the feet on the floor, just elevate the hips up and pull one of the rolls out. Doesn't matter which one, because you can readjust. Yeah, and then put the hips back down. So you either now still have one or two rolls under the lumbar. Take the left leg and just bring it up and over the right leg. So you're squeezing at the thighs, not really squeezing, but it's as if you're sitting, just having an espresso with someone, how we would sit cross-legged. So the left leg is on top. And then keeping the right shoulder fairly relaxed on the floor, let everything go over to the left. So the left leg is going to weight into this twist a little bit. So you may need to pull something under that left thigh. Please do. Or you could just let it dangle. And if you need to move the right foot a little bit here or there, then please do. And just for a bit here, just to sort of transition, and always we're really just using these the shapes to weave into the tightness and the density and the geometry of the body. So please feel free to explore. We always want the shape and the depth to be appropriate to your body. We want to be able to be still for just as long as we're not feeling unsafe, and just to hold for time. The time is really the brilliance of this practice. And if you do feel like you're on this edge, we're always interested in the edge in this practice, like what's too much, what's not enough. But sometimes if you feel yourself at this edge that you're not sure, sometimes just a gentle withdrawal is lovely, because your body will respond. And listen to your body. Your body may say, oh, thank you, that's just what we needed. Let's breathe a bit, relax, and then go back into it. So be very, very sensitive that we're transitioning out of an intellectual study. We're moving into a somatic study. And certainly the intellect is valuable to take notes. You know, the mental noting is always a good thing because often those notes will coalesce into an insight. But this is not a scientific study. This is not an intellectual study. This is an open-ended, pulsing, vibrating study of the body. Good. So let's take this tangle of this twist. Let's bring it on up. And then you can remove that left leg from up and over. And just take a moment, either stretch your legs out here if you'd like, or you could keep the feet on the floor. You can elevate the hips a couple of times off that bolster just so we have a bit of passive movement here. And then we'll take the right leg, bring it up and over. So we're not putting the foot on the knee or the foot on the thigh. We're letting that right foot drop down and over. So we're the top of the left thigh is under the bottom of the right thigh. And then with the right leg on top, we'll let everything just drift over to the right. And I often find the bottom foot, the left foot on this time, I have to walk it a little bit to the left to make more space in my hips. So feel free to do that. And then support with whatever you need. Okay, good. So let's bring those legs back up. And you can untwist the twists here, untangle the roots, let the legs, well, you can just put both feet flat on the floor. We're going to release from this now. So you can either, start to roll off to either side, or if you like with the roll, sometimes it's nice to just elevate the hips and move the pelvis up onto the roll. So coming out of the lumbar and placing the back part, or the tailbone, the sacrum, the pelvic area is onto the roll for a few moments. But we're just going to ease out of it. So slowly work your way out of it, and then come on up. I'd like to do the other side of that swan position that we did. So I'll just show it again. So we're going to take that, once you're ready, we're going to take that right leg this time and bend it out in front. Yeah. For some reason, oh, that's better. The angle looks better this way, if you could see. But anyway, I just have my right leg at an angle to my body, yes? And then I'm going to take the left leg and relax it back. And again, I'm not going to press the left hip down. I'm going to let the left hip be as relaxed as it would like to be. I'm going to start to come forward here, either supporting my upper body or putting something under that right buttocks to elevate it. If indeed this is not what you're interested in right now, then the reverse would be, like I said before, is to lie on your back, to bring that left leg up and either put the foot against the floor, which I'm recommending, but if that's not possible, you can just put that right foot under that left knee, and then either, yeah, it's good. If you're going to do that, you want to hold behind that left thigh, and you can relax the head down. And you can just play with. We're here for a bit, so the arms may fatigue. You may want to straighten that left leg and stretch it back, or you may want to, sometimes I like to put the right foot into the crook of my elbow and push that right knee gently forward. So just kind of come in and out. If you're doing this modification, just kind of play with it. It's a lovely thing to do. So whenever in yoga that we're, either referencing the scriptures or just the larger container of yoga, and we talk about this self that we're exploring, how to know oneself, we're not talking about the story of the self. So this is why we do cultivate a very sensitive witnessing to what the thoughts are doing. So the story of the self is just your inner narrative, and we all have it. What yoga is suggesting is the exploration of the self when we can drop these narratives, all of these, amazing, lovely, intricate personality traits, all of these things we identify with. This is not what yoga is talking about. Yoga is saying, let's find a way to not reference these mental memories, the self-identity, these ongoing narratives, and explore the self without them. And one of the ways that we begin this is we begin this with a noticing. The noticing is very, very crucial in yoga. And what we're noticing is that these things are changing all the time. The narrative that you were telling yourself when you were 10 years old or 15 years old is very different than the narrative you're telling yourself right now. The narrative that seemed so important last week, where is it even? We can't even find it. So one of the things that we lean into is, oh, right, this sense of self based on these habitual narratives are changing all the time. So we sink in a little bit deeper. We sink into this place that's not changing, that feels just open and empty and spacious. And we just rest there. And from that rest and from that stillness, then we are guided in a way. We are, the sense of self is then revealed as consciousness. And this is, what Krishna meant when he was saying that when you do know yourself, when you do wake up to yourself, then you will know how to act. And this is so really amazing, because what he's really saying is then we're not acting from all these personas. We're not acting from a life of conditioning and programming. We're acting from a more authentic place, and it's liberating, it's freeing. This is what Arjuna meant when he said, I have destroyed the delusion. I've regained my memory. Breathe, relax, feel, listen. And so let's start to arise from here. If you're doing the modification on your back, you can let go of the legs and relax them out. If you'd like to come into this little bit of a backward bend, feel free to. And then we'll just place the palms on the floor and just ease in, sway a bit, just a little bit of pressure. Bring the chin up a bit if you'd like. And see if you can feel something in that right buttocks area, the large and the small buttocks. Up in there is this piriformis, and when it tightens, it can just wreak havoc into the hips and the sciatic nerve. So we want to, really keep this area open and fluid, and so that area tightens, and then the residual tightening is just very complex. Good. So you can just come on down from this, relax that right leg out, roll over onto your back, and let's take a rest. So while you're resting, I would just like to give us a little preparation to do some of this inquiry. And this has been a very interesting study for me. This has been up for me for some time, and it's a study that if we can go slow with it and really ease into it, it can help us to cultivate a great sense of clarity. So I think it's very worthy just to spend a little time here while you're resting. And I just want to kind of set this framework. And then when we're in the next pose, we'll have some extra time. And if this is something you wish to explore, this is the ideal place to explore it. So what we're all really experiencing as humans with the senses that we have are really, we can break it down to only three things: the mind and the body and the world. So the mind is made of thoughts, and thoughts are made of thinking. Yeah, so you're thinking these thoughts. How is it, though, that we access the thinking? So forgive me for answering the question for you, but don't take my word for it. I'm just setting this up. So if the mind is made of thoughts and the thoughts are made of thinking, then how do we access the thinking? We access it by experiencing it. See if there's any other way to access your thinking other than experiencing it. Yes, this is self-inquiry. And so the body is made of sensations. The sensations are made of sensing. We sense the sensations. But how do we access that sensing? What you're feeling. How do we access the sensing? We experience it. You are experiencing this sensing of sensations. And the same thing with the world. And so when I say the world, we're just throwing a net out of all the senses. All the senses go out and they bring back these perceptions. Yeah, so the world is made, whether it's hearing or seeing or tasting, is made of perceptions. The perceptions are made of perceiving. How do we access this perceiving? You're right. We experience it. We're experiencing it. So the invitation for this next pose as you settle in is whatever comes up. If the world comes up, if the clock is ticking or the dog is barking, that's a perception. How do you access what you're perceiving? By experiencing. The invitation is to explore the experiencing, not the content of the world. Same thing with the body. The posture itself, the breath is going to evoke sensations. You'll be sensing those sensations. So if we remove the content of lower back or knee or breath, what is the experience of experiencing? What is this experiencing? Taking away the content of the sensations. And the same thing with the mind. And this is a very, very interesting one. So the mind then will be just churning, it'll be chattering, or maybe it'll be relaxing, or have concerns, or what's for dinner. It doesn't matter. The content of the thought, we're not interested in. It's the fact that we are thinking. How do we access this thinking? By experiencing it. So I'm going to ask you to get some distance from the content of the mind, of the body, and of the perceptions, and explore this element of experiencing. Okay, so come on up. And if you didn't hear anything I said or didn't understand anything I just said, just as good. So what I'm going to suggest is two things for those of you that have the large bolster. If you have the large bolster, I'm going to suggest the bolster. And again, we're going to use it vertically from the lower spine up towards the base of the skull. And I'm going to suggest a blanket or a towel that's just rolled up enough to support the cervical spine. So what we'll do is we'll pull that bolster in towards the lower back, keep the feet on the floor and just drape the body over it. If this is kind of halfway in between, you're not so sure, you can always sit up on a blanket. Yeah, so this will alleviate some of the compression. And then when you bring the upper body back, I'd like you to just tuck something under the neck, not so much the back of the head. I want to take as much compression out of the neck and let it relax so the body can have your own degree of equilibrium between feeling this compression, but also completely surrendering to it. So there's no issue there of when will this be over? Yeah. So that's for the bolster, if you have the bolster. If you don't have the bolster, just make a collection of pillows, blankets to support the length of the upper body. That's what I was doing with the bolster. So this isn't a backward bend where we want a tight arch from the lumbar and the shoulders are arching back. This is just to tuck something in to the lower back, but then have the upper body supported. Yeah, and same thing, if you're using towels and pillows, put something under the neck. So this is pretty good. I would maybe put one more thing under my lower back. So again, you just see how versatile all of the pillows and blankets are. And then I have something again for the upper body. So my shoulders, my head are supported. Oh, this is perfect. Yeah, and then something under my neck. Yeah, so either one of those configurations. And again, if you're using pillows and blankets, you may have to adjust a bit more. So remove or add or wiggle or wobble till you get it just right. Buttocks are on the floor. Upper spine is supported. A bit of compression in the lumbar spine. And this exploration that I'm inviting is what the great Indian yogi sage Atmananda Krishna calls higher reasoning, to explore from direct experience instead of belief systems or opinions. So again, don't force this, just like we don't force the body. We're not trying to embed the mind with anything, except open a container for direct experience. So thoughts arise, we lose interest in the content of the thought and bring our awareness to the fact that we're experiencing the sensations of the body. Once again, not interested in the content of them, although they may be interesting, I understand, but just the very present fact that we are experiencing them. And the same thing with any perceptions. My voice, any environmental noises, you're perceiving them. What is perceiving them? This quality of experiencing. And then I would just suggest that if the word experiencing isn't quite drawing you in, it's the same thing as knowing. You're knowing what's you're experiencing. You're aware of it, awareness. You're conscious of it, consciousness. We can even call it emptiness when we remove the content. And if we were going to put this in a religious context, we would call this divine presence. Appreciate the gentleness of your body. Appreciate the relaxation of your mind. And appreciate that there's no effort that is needed to explore this experiencing, this awareness, this emptiness. As a matter of fact, the lack of effort allows us just to notice that from this open, empty, aware spaciousness that we are, that mind, thought, body sensation, world perception is just a vibration or a modulation of this stillness. So enjoy this, appreciate that we just sink into this essential stillness. And then if we notice through our experience, thought or body or world, then we do. It's just our experience. And the experience just extends out, it expands, it comes back in, it contracts. No interest in the content. We're no needing to figure anything out. Quite the contrary. We're just allowing our entire system to feel like this tingling, vibrating, open, empty field of experiencing awareness. all that thought is trying to do in time is to avoid the emptiness of eternity. So do not try to think about this. Enjoy your spaciousness. So stay relaxed. Don't try to think about this, but just know that if your body is receptive, that this will enter in at the level of vibration and inform you. This will weave into your sense of inquiry. The mind is made of thoughts. Thoughts are made of thinking. Thinking is made of experiencing. And experiencing is made of you. The body is made of sensations. Sensations are made of sensing. Sensing is made of experiencing. Experiencing is made of yourself. The world is made of perceptions. Perceptions are made of perceiving. Perceiving is made of experiencing. And experiencing, consciousness, awareness, divine presence is you. Good. So let's very gently and slowly begin to stir. Always best to start by bending the knees and putting the feet firmly on the floor. Have some gentle movement. And just be aware of the transition energetically. You know, often we're just either in the pose or out of the pose, and then the mind just starts chattering. But we always have an opportunity, especially with something like this that we've held for a while, the energetics of the compression, the contraction, and the energetics of the release and the opening. So keep that awareness as you start to roll off of this. And I would suggest just to come on your side for a bit, maybe put a little pillow, something under the head, bring the knees up to the chest, and just transition here. This is a gentle, if you curl in, this is a gentle forward bending. And then when you're ready, you can find your way to either stay here if you prefer, or lie on your back, whatever feels most restful. We'll take a rest now. And certainly, I have found, I'll just speak for myself, that this higher reasoning that Krishna Menon talks about, this is something we can always apply. It's not just meant for a yoga asana. The discernment between our beliefs, our opinions, our judgments, and direct experience. So it becomes incredibly subtle, but it's always available to us because we always have direct experience. Although I think the bigger mystery, my little kitty just came up to the door, mewed a few times, looked like he wanted to come in. I opened the door, then he looked at me like I'm a bug and he ran away. That's, I think, really the mystery. Why would a kitty do that? Well, maybe because he's a kitty, huh? I got to think about that. And they're so convincing too, so convincing. Comes up, he looks at me like, yes, that's all I want to do is come in the door. To open it, and he's like, I got you again. It does seem like I do think that possibly we're getting to that time in our cultural cosmology where it's maybe time to turn over the leadership to kitties. They certainly know a lot about Shavasana, I have to say that. Okay, so before I digress too far in the direction of the feline, let's come on up, please. And let's open the legs out just as wide as you're able to without forcing. So I've been experimenting with this quite a bit to, going to my full range of motion with the, this forward straddle we call dragonfly in Yin. It tends to tighten my hips. So it limits my range of motion a bit. So if I back off my full extension and come in, my hips immediately relax. And then it's just a much different exploration. So I invite you to do that. Explore the outer edges where the hip flexors are starting to pull a bit. Yeah, and not only that, but the head of the femur into the hip socket is straining. So back off from that, and then we'll come forward here. Use whatever collection of support you need. If the hamstrings are a bit tight, so you can rest up here. Try not to hold tension in the neck, however. We want to relax that upper spine, yeah? So what we're evoking from the back of the legs and the hips is certainly spiraling up the spine. We don't want it to hit this blockage because we're just holding fear and tension in the upper neck and spine. So feel free to ease into that by relaxing the weight of the head. And if you don't need the support, you can just come to the hands or the forearms, just a place you can maintain for a few minutes. This is a quote from Marion Woodman, the brilliant Jungian psychoanalyst. And don't know if she ever did yin yoga, but this is foundational to this approach of our yoga. She says, difficulties, even death, are not an enemy from the beyond. They are not an alien force. They are part of the self. Therefore, what appears to be difficulties are really invitations. They are doorways into a deeper union with split off parts of the self. They are opportunities. But in order to make full use of these opportunities, one must be willing to undergo what Marion calls the initiation. So that is quintessential yoga. It is pure yoga. Instead of cultivating an environment where we squirm and try to self-improve and figure out when difficulties arise, we see them as invitations. We sit quietly with them. We become respectful of them. And we listen to their nuance and their sensitivity. What do they have to offer us? So let us come on up from here and either take, if you do have a small bolster, take a small bolster or fold a towel or a blanket to the approximate height of that. So I'm just using a towel here. I'll do it with the towel, but if you have the small bolster, please feel free to use that. And then coming out of this straddle, let's just bring the left leg in towards you. So now we are pulling it closer to the body. And then bring your prop in, so it's in front of that left leg, and then take the right leg and put it up on top of it. So if you are using a blanket or a pillow or a towel, again, I don't want it too high. I'm approximating the height of that small bolster so some of you can see this, yeah. And then we'll come forward from here. And this goes back to that swan position we did where it's going to evoke that right side knee to hip, piriformis again, IT band, lumbar spine. So just soften and relax into this. So in a way, then what we're actually doing is we're using a yoga position that just by the nature of the body and the way that it stiffens and tightens, coming into these positions has an element of discomfort, has an element of difficulty. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm not doing it right, or I need to do more, I need to fix something, if you're feeling the difficulty, if you're feeling the discomfort, then quite the contrary, this is success, because this is the invitation to explore. This is the invitation to be in relationship with the wisdom of the body, with the wisdom of the practice, if you will, the practice that's inviting you to look at the difficulties, look at the discomfort as having the seed of the healing within it. And the same thing, obviously, with the mind. When the mind becomes stressed, when the mind becomes overwhelmed and confused, if we keep, superimposing techniques and wishing it away and aspirins and all of these things, then we don't have the opportunity. We miss the opportunity to go deeper. Why is it that my mind hurts? Why is it that my mind is contracted? Why is it that my body hurts? Why is it contracted? Why is the world, the perceptions, not right, out of balance? So we want this container. It's a sacred container, an asana, so we can explore, so we can slow down, so we can listen. And so we can cultivate, again, this direct experience. And then sometimes our techniques and our beliefs, we need to alter them. Sometimes our practices, we need to alter them. They're not working. Sometimes they just get outdated. Sometimes we need to then relax from this, relax from the need for techniques, the need for self-help. And this relaxation then becomes this becomes the laboratory. The asana, the physical body, the relaxation, the reconfiguring that the difficulties and the discomforts are really the guru, really the teacher. So let us gently come on up from here. And let's open the legs out again. And again, feel free to adjust the angle. The angle is not set. It mostly depends on your muscular and skeletal variation. I'm suggesting much wider than hip width, though that's a different thing. But within that context, adjust it as you will. And then we'll just come forward again into this open straddle. Someone who has a very interesting book about what I'm talking about is C.S. Lewis. I think the name of the book is The Problem of Pain, something like that. But it's a sort of a brilliant exploration in just what I'm talking about. He's taking it more to sort of a spiritual place of that the difficulties are built into the fabric of life in order to teach us and how we can become humble with them. It's been a while since I've read it, but the concept is the same. He's talking about it spiritually. The psychoanalyst Arnold Mindell talks about it in terms of emotionally, in terms of when we have emotional contractions, emotional challenges, to be able to go into them, to peel back the superficial, to be able to go into the pain and start to trust that the healing of the pain is in the pain. So it's whether we're looking at body, emotions, mind, or spiritual practice, this concept can be very helpful and very useful. Of course, it's, I guess, convenient and alluring and easier to project and blame, but I think that just keeps us in a certain vibration, a certain contraction and expansion when we can, as creative beings, we can play with that energy. That energy is there for us to play with. If we don't take it too seriously, if we're able to sort of get comfortable with discomfort, we can create many more options. Good. So let's come on up from here. And let's just draw that right leg in. And either your towel or blanket, just don't make it too high. I'm going to use a little bolster this time. And then we'll take the left leg and put it in front as well. So we have both legs bent in front of us, but the left leg just a slightly bit elevated. Sometimes I go to the height of the big bolster. It's just different angling. This is quite nice, especially, like I said, this is kind of reflecting back from that swan position. And then let your forward bend be as gentle and slow as you can. The more you can slow it down, the more that you can notice on the way down, on the way in. Breathe deeply, breathe slowly. Imagine that you are filling your entire body with breath. And just going back for a moment where we opened with this exploration of our Dharma. And this doesn't matter if we're 8 years old or 80 years old, there's always an unfolding, an inner unfolding in our relationship with others in the world. So this, this contemplation of the discernment of our Dharma, our sacred path, it also relates very directly to the cultivation of our life force. So even though the practice may seem, the yoga may seem, the posture may seem like we're simply just trying to remove achiness, stiffness, increase range of motion, actually what we're doing is we're opening up the energetic pathways of the body. We're allowing ourselves to muster more and more life force. When the pathways are open, the life force, the prana, the chi, moves through more freely. We simply feel and we are more alive. So what I'm suggesting is that the mustering, the cultivating of this life force is important and allows us then to explore this Dharma, explore this this blueprint, this seed that has been with us, that is continually blossoming, and how to best take care of that, finding our place, expressing ourselves from the depth of that Dharma. Good. So let's come on up from here, please. And as you come on up and open the legs, I'm going to suggest that you elevate the legs to, we're going to come into a final Shavasana now. Sometimes I've been just bypassing it, but to me, this was a bit hip intensive and IT band intensive. So to elevate the femurs a little bit would be good. So you can either put the bolster under the knees or under the lower calf muscles, the Achilles, so the heels aren't on it. And we'll just lay down and make yourself comfortable and just relax. And I'll just alert you that it seems like we are, there's a bit of stormy weather approaching. It's predicted, and my screen has gone a bit fuzzy. So if I do lose you, I haven't really lost you. So just allow yourself to relax. So please feel free to stay in this relaxation as long as you would like. If you would like to sit up with me and close, this would be the time. I'll just close with one final piece of advice that Krishna recommended to Arjuna. He said, if you truly want to be at peace, you truly want to know yourself, you truly want to be happy, then let go of the fruit of your actions. Namaste.